Hi everyone, it's Melissa, and today I am going to share with you kind of my update, my midpoint check-in on my reading goals for the year. So normally I would kind of like prepare all my stats and whatever ahead of time. We are going through a lot right now. Busy and distracted by a lot of other things, so I haven't prepared for this, but I still wanted to do this. I'm just going to do it in a more casual way than I normally would have liked to do. But I still wanted to share this with you as it is halfway through the year, and I really like stats videos and check-ins and that kind of thing. So yes, what I'm going to do is I am going to first check my reading goals video for 2022 that I posted back in January, I'm assuming. I originally wanted to do kind of like a screen record thing, but I just tried that with my booktube spin video, which you'll see posted. I'm filming them both today. And I couldn't figure out, there was like some weird feedback thing that I don't know how to get rid of, and I don't want to go searching for a different screen recorder and blah, blah, blah. I just don't have the capacity, the time, or like the mental capacity right now to figure it out. So I am just going to watch my own video and edit this together, hopefully in a way that's cohesive. But yeah, I didn't write down my goals in a book, so I have to like go back to my original video. The first goal of the year is actually really a non-goal, I suppose. So it's the number of books I want to read, and I've succeeded in that. I did not set a target on Goodreads or Storygraph or anything of books, the amount of books that I wanted to read. And I think maybe with a couple of exceptions, like a couple different times this year, I think for the most part, I have really not felt the pressure to read a large quantity. I'm still reading a lot, but I'm reading less than I have the past couple of years, or maybe similar to last year's amount, which was more manageable than 2 years ago. But I think on the whole, I'm not feeling like pressured to, pick up all of these books. I'm just kind of like reading at my own pace. So I'm going to call that a win for goal number 1. I really cut down those very specific finer goals to just 2 that are things I really want to focus on. I'm going to keep the reading 1 nonfiction book a month at least. I actually want to read more nonfiction this year, but we're just going to keep it at 1 per month. Okay, so goal 2 is basically also cutting back on all the specific things. Like the year before, I had all these specific categories that I was reading from every month. Like every month I want to read this kind of book and this kind of book and yada, yada, yada. And I pulled it back to reading 1 nonfiction a month, which I'll have to check and see if I did that. And what's the other one? And the other thing is I really want to focus on Canadian authors this year. I don't think I've been doing well on this at all. I am woefully ignorant. I don't read a lot of Canadian books, and I really want to change that this year. Okay, yeah, so I did want to read a book from a Canadian author each month. So I'm going to actually, I have a spreadsheet because that's the kind of person I am, and I will be right back with those numbers. Okay, so I did the Canadian one first. I'm doing these backwards because that's where this column is in my spreadsheet, okay? Deal with it. So I did better than I thought, actually. I've read 5 books from Canadian authors this year. So it should be 6, but that's okay. I still feel like I want to read more CanLit just because I just feel like I don't know what's going on in literature in Canada. Like I don't know the scene, and like I live here and I want to be more aware. But this isn't as bad as I thought it was. So let's look at the nonfiction. Okay, so I have read 11 nonfiction books this year. So that's not quite 2 a month, but like pretty close to 2 a month. So I am very happy with that. All right, let's see the next goal. My goal number 3 is to get my unread books down, so my physical books. I have a lot of books on my shelf, but my goal is to get my unread books down to 150. Okay, so my goal was to get my unread books down to 150, and I have to say, this was not looking good for most of the year. I just I was using the library a lot, which is fine, but I just wasn't reading for my shelves that much. And even when I was reading, like, I went to a book sale and like got some like used books, and I just wasn't getting that number down very far. But I, with the help of like a vlog I did, and just like doing a complete like survey of my books and figuring out like books that I'm just no longer interested in reading, which I haven't done in a while, I was able to I smashed this goal. I'm like so pleased. So I have a separate spreadsheet with like all my unread books, and like when I read them, it changes like the number. I'm really into spreadsheets, by the way. So at the start of 2022, I had 166 unread books on my shelf. So far this year, I have acquired, so either been gifted or have bought 11 books. So that brings the total to 177. But I have read 12. I DNF'd 1. I donated on hauled 3. I decided not to read 15 books. If you add those all together, that's 31. So I brought in 11 books onto my shelf, but I reduced by 31. So overall TBR reduction of 20. So I went from 166 unread books to 146. And my goal was to get it down to 150. And we're halfway through the year, and I've already surpassed that. So I'm making a little bit of a stretch goal here. And I don't want to go like too crazy and say that I'm going to reduce it by like a further 20. But there is still half the year left, so I'm going to say I can probably get it down by another 15. But then because I'm at 146, saying 16 might be more like satisfying, because then it will get it down to a nice round number of 130. But like maybe that's a bit ambitious. But you know what? I already smashed the first goal, and this is a stretch goal, so it's fine. So my stretch goal now is to get it down to 130. But as long as it stays below 150, I am happy. So yeah, very pleased with this. On to the next goal. Goal number 4 is to finish series. I have a lot of series on the go, and I would like to... I have not been reading series. I had 2 little mini goals here. I remember I want to continue series in general, but I wanted to finish... Let me listen here. Continue many of them, but finish at least 2. And I am counting anything that's like a duology plus. Okay, so I wanted to continue as many series as I could, but I wanted to finish, like actually complete out 2 series. Okay, let me go back to my spreadsheet and see what I've done. This is really bad. I have continued 3 of the 11 series that I have on the go. I've continued 3. I have finished none of them. So I have continued the City of Ember series. I read book number 2. I've continued Discworld because I read Equal Rights. And I continued it's not really a series, but they're connected, the Brown Sisters romance novels. So I read Take a Hint, Danny Brown this year. So I continued that one. I haven't finished anything out of the 11 series I have on the go. So that's a big fat fail. But we still have half the year. This is why I'm doing this check-in, because as you can see, I've clearly forgotten what my goals were. Goal number 5 is to reread 5 books. Last year, I wanted to reread 10, and I only reread 3. Okay. Have I reread anything this year? Okay, I reread 1 book. I reread Slaughterhouse-5 as part of my second time's the charm vlog series thing project that I'm doing this year. And that is the only one that I've reread. Yeah, I don't really know what to do about this one. It's still a desire of mine, but clearly I'm prioritizing other things. So I'm going to try not to feel too bad if I don't meet that one. Let's see what else is on the list. Okay, so my last reading goal is basically just specific books that I wanted to read. So there were 5 books that I wanted to read in 2022, and I am fairly certain I have read none of these either. Yeah, so I wanted to read Beloved, Assassin's Apprentice, The Fifth Season, East of Eden, and Being Mortal, and I have read none of those yet. So we'll see how things are when I do my like end of year wrap, but I feel like this might not be the goal for me. I think normally it would have been because I'm very much like a list maker and I love lists. But this year, if you've been following me, you'll notice, and I think I've talked about it at least a couple of times, I've been mood reading, and I never was a mood reader. I would always just like make a TBR. I haven't made any TBRs this year, aside from I think Jane Austen July is the only like TBR I've made. I always used to post TBR videos and I would follow the TBRs. And this year I'm just I'm not feeling it. So I'm not gonna feel bad about that. I think just the way I'm reading this year is just different than it has been. I am going to try to remember that I have this list, but I think I'm a little bit of a different reader. At least for now. Maybe I'll change back to how I was, but at least for now, I'm just not reading like specific lists, I guess. Okay, so the last is like a more of a booktube goal, not a reading goal. And so for the first 2 years of my channel, I did kind of like a year-long challenge for myself. So the first year I did a series where I read like genres and authors and things that I've never read before, and I think I just called that I've never read like ... So that was the first year I was on BookTube, and then last year I did my pop culture osmosis series where I tried to predict like really famous books, like what would happen in them, like famous books that I hadn't read before, which I'm going to be making more of those. So if you like those, stay tuned. But this year I wanted to do this project where I was revisiting previous DNFs and books that I had previously not liked, and I wanted to make a video series, and I have. It's called Second Time's the Charm. So at this point I would have made 3 of those vlogs and I've only made 2, but that's okay. I've been really busy, and if I have some time freed up, I can film like a couple in 1 month or something. I actually do have a book out from the library for that series. I want to read it sometime in July, but I'm just prioritizing my Jane Austen July reading right now, but I am going to try to squeeze this book in July. So we're getting back on track with that. So those were my goals, and this is how I'm doing with them. I want to know if you've been brave enough to go back and look at what your goals were back in January, if you make goals. And if you've been able to stick to yours, please let me know how it's going. I would love to have a chat with you in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll chat soon. Take care. Bye.